Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Paco Ramos Moreno. I am a journalist in Southern California, and joining me today is Timothy Wolfer. Timothy, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and talking about the film.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining me today. And let's dive on in and talk about the film. If you can start off by letting us know a little bit about the film.
So the film follows the story of three transgender women as they head to the U.S. border in 2018 during the run-up to the midterm elections, and it just follows their journey and allows them to tell it.
Timothy, can you tell us what compelled you to go across the border and document the migrant caravan?
So when the caravan was coming from Central America towards the U.S. border, there was a lot of information out there uh, calling them, criminals, and they were coming to do horrible things in our country. And I've spent the last 12 years or so working with migrants and in humanitarian situations. And I knew that that's not the makeup of most migrants. Most migrants are just looking for a better future and opportunities or fleeing persecution, just like so many of us who just want better futures. So I decided the best way to find out what was really going on was to go find the caravan and just follow them and find some stories to tell. So I flew to southern Mexico and caught up with the caravan, and within the first 24 hours or so, I met these amazing women who had band together, transgender women who had band together, and they were splitting resources and food, and just I was just super compelled to them. So I decided to follow them.
So your initial idea of this whole project didn't necessarily uh, center around the LGBTQ plus community.
It didn't. It was, my initial plan was to just find some stories and just humanize the caravan, because like so much of news is information, and they were talking about 7,000 people, and I was like, I just wanted to find a human story, and I found these women, and I was like, if I got to walk for 6 weeks with this caravan, who do I want to spend my time with? It's these women. So that's how I decided to follow them.
How did you, when you first met met the three women, how did you connect with them? Because there's a culture and a language barrier, and at that point, you're the journalist, an outsider. So how did you make that connection? How did you get them to trust you?
Trust came over time. So at first they were timid. I asked a few questions. They answered them very formally the first day. And then the second day I was like, hey, I'll be there. Well, I think they were leaving at 4 a.m. I'll be there at 4 a.m. And I just want to follow you. And they said that was fine. And so, I would follow them one day and then the next day. And over time that trust was built. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen right away.
Is there, in a word or a couple of words, can you describe each of the three women you feature in the film?
So Valentyna, she's from El Salvador, and been she was living in southern Mexico when the caravan was passing through, and just decided to drop everything and join the caravan. She's a very entrepreneurial spirit. She like has all these dreams of owning like a makeup company and like a nail salon and these things. Johanna Stefani, she's the darker complected one in the film, and she's from Honduras and is much more of an activist voice. She has a real presence and a passion for the community. And then Chantal, who's a little bit more reserved, but she has a lot of emotion and is kind of like thinks a lot and like helps out with or helps organize and stuff like that. So the three of them were just an awesome group of friends.
Have they seen the film?
They have, yes.
What
Uh,
did they think about it?
I think that they had mixed reactions to it. I think that anytime you see yourself conveyed in such a raw aspect of your life as something that was dangerous that you'd been through and stuff, that it's hard. But they're very excited about it, and have been speaking up on it. And so I'm excited that they've trusted me with their stories.
Since the camera stopped rolling, have you kept in touch with them? What has happened to each of them without giving too much away, so people who still need to watch the film can watch it, enjoy it?
So I do keep in touch with them at least once a week, and a few of them every single day. And life is still not easy for them. I'll be blunt about that, but things have changed.
We live in a time where the current White House administration has made the claim that migrants who show up at the border are claiming asylum just for the sake of requesting it, and it's an easy way to get into the country. Can you tell us about the basis of these women coming to the border and making their claim? What compelled them to make that dangerous journey?
All three of them had been through horrifying circumstances, where their lives had been threatened, where they had no economic opportunities. They have fought depression, attempting or thinking about suicidal thoughts at times. So the atrocities they've experienced are very real. That being said, they're also dreamers, and they're excited. So they have a real drive and a passion, and so they decided to join the caravan in the hopes of a better future.
You were originally only going, or were planning on being down with the caravans and the migrants for a couple of days, and you ended up staying for weeks. You ended up doing the journey with them. You walked with them. What was that like for you?
Two parts to that answer. One is, I always get asked, oh, what was the logistics like? Was it dangerous? How did you feel? And, from a logistical standpoint, I would try and get hotels at night. Mexico does have hotels along the way. And we'd try and get good meals where I could and stuff like that. And, as far as logistics, I would split taxis with other journalists and resources where we could. And then, from an emotional standpoint, like, it was hard to watch because, all of these people have band together, and there's 7,000 people, and they're like so excited to make it to the US border. And it's like they're running a race. And when they get to the border, which is the finish line, there's going to be no one there to greet them with a bottle of Gatorade and like that finish banner or a trophy or medal. It's going to be nothing. It's like you will have been through all this, and so few of them will even get the opportunity to request asylum, much less even be granted asylum. So just having that in mind, it was hard to watch.
Latin America and Mexico are not as welcoming. Well, I wouldn't say welcoming, but not as open-minded in terms of LGBTQ plus acceptance. How was it for the women even within the migrant caravan?
I mean, they experienced harassment from within the first, hours that I was there. People whistling, catcalling, saying horrible things to them. They would face discrimination when it came time to get food. They'd be the last to get food or the last to get rides or be refused rides. So the journey for the caravan was very dangerous. And being, LGBTQ, being transgender just took it to a whole nother level.
For the people who watch the film, what is something that you hope they walk away with from watching your film?
When people watch the film, I really hope that they get a sense of like these women and just how amazing they were, and like how they're just like you and I, and they just want a better future for themselves, and how resilient they are. And I hope that through the way that I told the story, that I've given them agency and a platform to really speak up for the community. And I hope that people just walk away with an open mind.
Tim, you said that when you first met the three women, they were together. They had formed a bond, a friendship within the migrant caravans. Is that something that we'll see throughout the film? And is that something that still continues even after the film concludes?
They did have conflict throughout it. I mean, they are people and humans and friends, and they have their ups and downs moments, and you see that throughout the film. So and at one point they do all get split, and I end up just following one. But I hope that even when there are those down moments, people can still see the emotion and the passion that they all have.
All three women claimed and filed an asylum claim. How was that process? What is that process? What was that process for them, and who helped them?
Once they reached the border, initially they went to Tijuana, and then they moved to other parts along the border because there was a very long line to get into the U.S. at that point. And so they had to wait several weeks before they could even get the request to ask for asylum. And then along that process, that they had help from both Raices with some logistics, which is a large nonprofit in Texas, who provided buses for them to even get to the border from Mexico City. And then there were teams of lawyers that helped guide them through the asylum process and really focused on their cases as being transgender. Transgender asylum cases, from what I understand, are very strong cases because they do face a lot of persecution in their home countries, and so the asylum process here in the U.S. still works for transgender cases. However, that is changing even since the film was produced just 2 years ago.
Just recently, the Supreme Court of the United States dealt a major victory for the LGBTQ plus community and employers. Are they aware of that? Do they know what that's the significance of them, and how, if they are in the US, how it will positively impact them?
They aren't very politically, or I've not seen any signs like on their Facebooks and stuff that they're politically involved. Parker, between you and I, like, it's a struggle every single day. Like, one of them got hit with a $3,500 medical bill the other day, and it's like,
Oof.
yeah, she's like texting me like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "I have no freaking idea what to tell you to do." Like, that's horrible.
So while they're waiting for their asylum claim to be processed, are they in the detention center?
They are, yeah.
Do
It's
they talk about that experience?
throughout the film, you can see the build up to them getting to the border and requesting asylum and learning the process of what they were going to have to endure even once they crossed the border. So they would talk about like how they were going to have to spend Christmas in these detention centers in, Texas and Arizona, and how uh, just how horrible those places are, and the stories they had heard from it, and just them mentally trying to prepare for that, which is fascinating. That when you're like leaving persecution, the thing you're getting ready to do, the dream is to build a better future, but to know you have to go through something like if you were a criminal to just get into the US is just, it's a mental gymnastic that I don't quite understand, like how they did that, and they're very strong for being able to mentally prepare for that. One of the sound bites that didn't make it into the movie is Valentyna talking about the first time she ever was on a plane was when they were moving her from one detention center to another. I mean,
Mhm.
that's not how my first plane ride was. I'm sure that's not how your first plane ride was.
At the end of the film, there's an intense uh, scene, intense situation, and you as a filmmaker have to decide which individual or individuals to follow. Can you tell us about that decision and why you made it?
So there is this point in the film where the women split ways, and as a filmmaker, I did have to decide, which of them to follow, and it came down to a logistical thing. Chantal and Johanna were two of the first to get to request asylum on the border, and Valentyna was one of the last. And I had ended up getting very sick in Tijuana and had to come back home for a week or so to recover from that. And so when I flew back down to catch the last part, Valentyna and her friend Sinai were still waiting to cross, and so that's how the decision was made to follow her.
Well, Timothy, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about the film. Can you let people know where and when they can watch the film?
So the film will be available August 11th on iTunes and Amazon. And you can also, if you have a DVD player still, you can order a DVD starting today, and then it will also be on many of the cable networks as well for VOD.
That's awesome. And just a little side note, congratulations, Tim. I know your film has been recognized at film festivals, so a big congratulations to you and to all the team. And we look forward to the film. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.